I stood in the pouring rain, powerless in my own home, while Karen smirked from her glowing porch until I flipped the switch on her empire. Hey, folks, ever had a neighbor who thinks they're the queen of the cul-de-sac? Drop a comment below if you've got a Karen story, because I'm about to share one that'll make your jaw drop. I'm Mike, just a guy trying to live quietly in Lakeview, North Carolina, but last spring, I tangled with the ultimate HOA tyrant Karen. And trust me, this story's got twists you won't see coming. It was April 23rd, 2024, when the storm hit. Not your average drizzle. This was a full-on, sky-splitting, thunder-rattling beast. Rain slammed my windows like it was auditioning for a disaster flick. I was cozy inside, binge-watching a new series, when snap, my house went dark. No lights, no Wi-Fi, no hum from the fridge I just stuffed with $400 worth of groceries from Harris Teeter. I figured it was a blackout, no big deal, storms do that. So, I grabbed a flashlight, pulled on my old UNC hoodie, and stepped outside to check the street. Here's where it gets weird. Every house on Maple Drive glowed like a Christmas display, porch lights blazing, TVs flickering behind curtains, even Tom's ridiculous inflatable Easter bunny still bobbing in his yard. Every house except mine. My place? Pitch black, like I'd been personally yeeted into the Stone Age. My stomach twisted. This wasn't a storm thing. This was targeted. Back inside, I fumbled with my phone, praying it wasn't dead yet. I logged into my utility app, Lakeview Energy, the company that keeps this town humming. A red banner screamed across the screen. Power suspended due to HOA violation. Contact administrator. HOA violation? Since when did the HOA control my electricity? My blood ran hot. I yanked open my front door just as a sharp knock echoed from my gate. There, in the downpour, was a neon orange notice taped to my mailbox, sealed in plastic like some sacred HOA scripture. I ripped it open, rain soaking my sleeves. Violation. Unauthorized solar panel usage, code 7C2. Immediate disconnection enforced. Signed, Karen Thompson, HOA president. I laughed, a bitter, disbelieving bark. Solar panels? My system was offline, set to kick in only if the grid failed. Which it hadn't. This wasn't a glitch. Karen had cut me off. I stormed through puddles to her house, 3 doors down. Her porch was a beacon of smug perfection, string lights twinkling, a space heater humming, and Karen herself, sipping chamomile tea in a wicker chair like she was starring in a Southern Living ad. I banged on her glass door. She barely flinched, just raised an eyebrow like I was a stray dog begging for scraps. Karen, I growled, my breath fogging in the cold, did you seriously cut my power? She smirked, swirling her tea. The HOA did, Mike. Your solar setup's non-compliant. Rules are rules. Grid-tied systems need board approval to auto-engage. Her voice dripped with fake pity, like she was explaining gravity to a toddler. My system wasn't even on, I snapped. And since when do you get to play electrician with my house? Her smile tightened, sharp as a razor. We don't play. We enforce. If you want power back, file a compliance form, pay the $250 fine, and wait for review. Shouldn't take more than, 2 weeks. She sipped her tea, eyes gleaming. I stood there, drenched, my flashlight beam wobbling in the rain. Behind her, her living room glowed, cozy, warm, mocking me. Something snapped inside, not anger, but something colder, sharper. I didn't argue, didn't beg. I just turned and walked home, her laugh trailing me like a bad song. Let her think she'd won. Let her savor her little victory lap. Because I wasn't just Mike, the guy with the tidy lawn and the overpriced groceries. I was Michael J. Reynolds, CEO of Lakeview Energy, the company that powered her precious HOA and 62 other communities across 3 counties. Karen thought she'd pulled the plug on me, but she didn't know. She just handed me the keys to her downfall. Back home, I slipped into my study, the one room I kept locked even from delivery guys. A biometric scanner blinked green, and the door hissed open. Inside, monitors flared to life, bathing me in blue light, dashboards, grid maps, live feeds. My command center, my war room. I cracked my knuckles and pulled up the HOA's access logs. There it was, 6:47 p.m. Karen had called our after-hours line, sweet-talked a rookie tech named Josh, and used an outdated HOA admin code to flag my house for disconnection. A fluke, a loophole she'd exploited. My fault for not closing it sooner. But her mistake for thinking she could outsmart the guy who built the system. I could have flipped my power back on with a keystroke. Could have erased her little stunt and gone to bed. But this wasn't about lights anymore. It was about teaching Karen that power games have consequences, and I was about to play for keeps. As I dug deeper, my phone buzzed. A text from my buddy Ethan, who lived across the street. "Yo, Mike, you good?" Saw Karen strutting like she owns the grid. I grinned, typing back. She's about to learn who does. Meanwhile, at Karen's house, I bet she was drafting another violation slip, maybe for my mailbox being 2 inches too tall. She had no idea I was already 3 moves ahead, pulling threads that'd unravel her whole kingdom. The storm raged on, but in my dark house, I felt alive. Karen wanted to flex? Fine. I'd show her what real power looked like, one spark at a time. My house was still dark, but my screens glowed with Karen's secrets, and I wasn't about to let her sleep easy tonight. I leaned back in my chair, the hum of my command center drowning out the storm's howl. Karen thought she'd zapped me into submission, but she'd just lit a fire. Every keystroke I made pulled another thread of her HOA empire, and I could already see it fraying. The thing about power, real power, is it's quiet until it isn't. And I was ready to make some noise. As I scanned the HOA's access logs, a new alert pinged on my dashboard. Unusual activity detected, Sector 12B, HOA Clubhouse. I smirked. Karen wasn't wasting time. While I was digging into her stunt with my power, she was probably at the clubhouse, rallying her loyalists or drafting more of her infamous violation slips. Maybe she was measuring someone's grass with a ruler again, wouldn't put it past her. I pulled up the live feed from a discreet camera I'd installed near the clubhouse last year, officially for grid maintenance. There she was, pacing under the fluorescent lights, barking orders at poor Lisa, her treasurer, who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. "Lisa, I need those fine reports by tomorrow," Karen snapped, her voice crackling through my feed. "And tell Greg his fence paint is still non-compliant. I'm not running a circus here." I chuckled. "Oh, Karen, you're about to star in one." I saved the clip. Every word she said was another nail in her coffin. But I needed more than petty HOA drama. I needed proof she'd crossed a line nobody could ignore. Back at my desk, I dove into the utility records. Karen's disconnect order on my house wasn't just a fluke, it was sloppy. She'd used an admin code from 2019, a relic from when Lakeview Energy merged with a smaller provider. That code should have been deactivated, but it slipped through the cracks during a system overhaul. My bad, sure, but her arrogance made it personal. I traced her activity further. At 6:52 p.m., right after cutting my power, she'd logged into the HOA's private portal and flagged 3 other homes for suspected violations. None had been disconnected yet, but the intent was clear. She was building a hit list. One of those homes belonged to Sarah, a single mom who'd moved in last fall. Sarah baked cookies for every neighborhood potluck and coached her kids' soccer team. Her violation? An unapproved birdhouse in her yard. Another was old Mr. Jenkins, who used a wheelchair and kept his porch light on all night for safety. His crime? A non-standard bulb wattage. The third was Ethan's place. He dared to park his pickup truck half an inch over his driveway line once. Karen wasn't just flexing. She was punishing anyone who didn't bow to her rulebook. My jaw tightened. This wasn't about bylaws anymore. It was about control, and Karen was drunk on it. I cracked open a Diet Coke, the fizz cutting through the silence of my dark house. Time to turn up the heat. While Karen played dictator at the clubhouse, I sent an encrypted message to my compliance team at Lakeview Energy. Initiate audit, Sector 12B. Focus on HOA overrides and meter activity. Flag anything tied to admin code 392, KT. That code was Karen's digital fingerprint, and I was betting she'd left it all over the grid. I also pinged my buddy Ethan, who was probably sipping a beer and watching the storm from his garage. "Heads up, man, Karen's targeting you. Stay sharp." His reply came fast. "She's got no chill. Want me to stir the pot?" I grinned. "Not yet. Let her dig her own grave." Meanwhile, across town at Lakeview Energy's main office, my compliance officer, Rachel, was already pulling files. I'd hired Rachel because she could sniff out fraud faster than a bloodhound chasing bacon. If Karen had tampered with anything, meters, bills, anything, Rachel would find it. I pictured her now, glasses perched on her nose, coffee in hand, tearing through data like a kid unwrapping Christmas presents. The thought made me smile. Karen had no idea the storm she'd unleashed wasn't just outside. Back in my war room, I cross-referenced Karen's HOA portal activity with our grid logs. Bingo! Her login had triggered a manual override on the clubhouse's smart meter last month, boosting its power allocation during a board meeting. Why? So her fancy new espresso machine wouldn't trip the breaker while she played Queen. That little stunt had cost the HOA an extra $127 in unbilled usage. Small potatoes, maybe, but it was unauthorized, and I was building a case. As I worked, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a group chat with a few neighbors, Sarah, Ethan, and Tom with the Easter Bunny. Sarah had forwarded a photo of her birdhouse violation notice, timestamped an hour ago. "Can you believe this?" She wrote. "I'm out here trying to raise a kid, and Karen's got time to police my backyard." Ethan chimed in. "She's unhinged." "Mike, you got power yet?" I typed back. "Working on it. Karen's about to regret this." Tom added a laughing emoji. "Give her hell, man." Their messages lit a spark in me. This wasn't just my fight anymore. Karen was bullying people I cared about, people who didn't deserve her petty wrath. Sarah's kid deserved a mom who wasn't stressed about birdhouses. Mr. Jenkins deserved to feel safe at night. Ethan deserved to park his damn truck. I leaned closer to my screens, my pulse picking up. Karen wanted to play gatekeeper? I'd show her what happens when you mess with the guy who holds the keys. I pulled up another feed, this one from a sensor near Karen's house. Her garage light was on, and I caught a glimpse of her cousin, Brian, hauling something heavy into his SUV. Brian was Karen's go-to for shady favors, the kind of guy who'd fix a meter for a case of Bud Light. Last summer, he bragged about rewiring his hot tub to dodge usage fees. If he was moving stuff tonight, he was up to something, and I'd bet my left shoe it was tied to Karen's schemes. The storm outside was fading, but inside me, it was building. I saved every scrap of data, Karen's logs, the clubhouse override, Brian's late-night hustle. Each piece was a brick in the wall I was building around her. She'd cut my power to flex her ego, but she didn't know I could dim her whole world without breaking a sweat. As I queued up a report for Rachel, my doorbell camera pinged. I flicked to the feed and saw Lisa, Karen's treasurer, standing at my gate, clutching an umbrella and looking nervous. What was she doing here at 10 p.m.? Across town, Rachel was probably flagging Brian's hot tub stunt in the system. At the clubhouse, Karen was likely typing another fine, oblivious to the news tightening. And here I was, the guy in the dark house, about to answer the door and maybe, just maybe, find the key to cracking Karen's empire wide open. I stood, my heart thumping. This was about to get real interesting. Lisa stood at my gate, her umbrella trembling in the drizzle, and I knew whatever she was about to say could light the match to burn Karen's reign to the ground. I flicked off my monitors, letting the room sink back into darkness. My heart was racing not from the storm, but from the thrill of being one step ahead. Karen thought she was untouchable, sitting in her clubhouse throne, but here was her right-hand woman, sneaking to my doorstep like a defector in a spy flick. I grabbed a hoodie, took a deep breath, and opened the door. "Lisa," I said, keeping my voice steady, "kinda late for a house call, don't you think?" She glanced over her shoulder, like Karen might pop out of the bushes with a clipboard. "Mike, I need to talk. Can I come in?" Her eyes were wide, her ponytail fraying in the damp air. This wasn't the polished Lisa who handed out HOA agendas with a fake smile. This was someone scared. I nodded, stepping aside. "Sure. But fair warning, power's out, courtesy of your boss." She flinched at boss, but followed me inside. We sat in my living room, lit only by a battery-powered lantern that cast spooky shadows on the walls. Lisa clutched her purse like a life raft. "It's about Karen," she whispered. "She's out of control. I didn't sign up for this." "Tell me something I don't know," I said, leaning forward. But my gut told me she wasn't here to vent. She had something big. While Lisa gathered her courage, let's zoom out for a sec. At the clubhouse, Karen was still on her warpath. My camera feed, before I shut it down, showed her typing furiously, probably drafting a new rule to ban excessive porch plants or some nonsense. Across town, Rachel was burning the midnight oil at Lakeview Energy, her desk piled with energy logs. She just texted me. "Found something on Brian's meter, irregular draw, big time." And Brian himself? His SUV was parked behind Karen's house now, headlights off, like he was auditioning for a low-budget crime show. All these pieces were moving, and I was the one holding the board. Back in my living room, Lisa finally spilled. "Karen's been fudging the HOA budget," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "She's been diverting funds, dues we're all paying to cover, things, like her new pergola and Brian's side projects. I raised an eyebrow. Side projects? She nodded, digging into her purse and pulling out a crumpled spreadsheet. This is from last quarter. Look at the maintenance line, $3, 204 clubhouse upgrades. Except there were no upgrades. That money went to Brian for some crypto mining rig in his basement. It's eating power like crazy, and Karen's been hiding the overages by messing with the grid. My pulse spiked. This was gold. Karen wasn't just bullying neighbors. She was stealing from them to fund her cousin's shady hustle. And tampering with Lakeview Energy's grid to do it? That was a federal no-no. I took the spreadsheet, my mind already racing. Why bring this to me, Lisa? Why now? She bit her lip. Because she went too far with you. Cutting your power? That's not normal. And I heard her tonight. She's planning to hit Sarah next, maybe even disconnect her. I can't keep covering for her. I've got a kid, Mike. I don't want to be part of this anymore. Her words hit hard. Sarah, juggling work and her son's soccer games, didn't deserve this. Nobody did. I felt a surge of protectiveness, not just for my own house, but for everyone Karen had stepped on. You're doing the right thing, I told Lisa. But I need more. Emails, texts, anything tying her to this. Lisa hesitated, then nodded. I'll get them. But you can't tell her it's me. She'd ruin me. Deal, I said. You're under my radar. As I walked her out, I caught a glimpse of Brian's SUV peeling away from Karen's driveway, tires squealing in the wet. Whatever he was up to, it was moving fast. I needed to move faster. The second Lisa was gone, I bolted back to my command center. My screens flared to life, and I uploaded her spreadsheet to Rachel with a note. Cross-check this with Brian's meter data. Priority 1. Then I pulled up the HOA's email server. Don't ask how I got access. Let's just say I know my systems. Karen's inbox was a treasure trove. At 8:14 p.m., she'd sent Brian a cryptic message. Move the gear tonight. Can't risk another audit. Another email, to an unknown contact, read, need a workaround for meter spikes. $500 if you can make it quick. She was scrambling, and I was loving every second of it. While I sifted through her digital trail, Ethan was stirring things up in the neighborhood group chat. He'd posted a photo of my orange violation notice. Someone must have snapped it before I took it down, with the caption, Karen's playing power police now. Who's next? Sarah replied, this is insane. My kid's scared to go outside because of her. Mr. Jenkins, who rarely texted, added, she fined me for my light. I'm 78. Enough. The chat was blowing up, neighbors trading stories of Karen's petty tyranny. It was like watching a revolution spark in real time. I leaned back, grinning. Karen's empire was cracking, and she didn't even know it. But I wasn't done. I queued up a silent alert to my field team. Inspect Sector 12B meters at 0600 tomorrow. Focus on Brian's address and clubhouse. If Brian's crypto rig was pulling power off the books, we'd catch it red-handed. And if Karen was covering it up, she'd be answering to more than just the HOA. As I worked, my mind drifted to Lisa's face, pale, nervous, but resolute. She'd taken a risk coming here, and that took guts. It reminded me why I loved Lakeview. Not the manicured lawns or the overpriced coffee shops, but the people. Folks like Lisa, Sarah, Ethan, even grumpy Mr. Jenkins. They deserved better than Karen's reign of terror, and I was going to make sure they got it. Across town, Rachel was probably high-fiving her laptop, piecing together Brian's meter scam. At the clubhouse, Karen was likely plotting her next move, oblivious to the storm brewing around her. And Brian? I bet he was sweating bullets, hauling his gear to God knows where. Me? I was in my dark house, sipping a cold Diet Coke, watching my screens like a hawk. The pieces were falling into place, and Karen was about to learn what happens when you pull the plug on the wrong guy. I glanced at my phone, 2 a.m. The night was young, and so was this fight. Lisa's spreadsheet was my ace, but I needed one more card to play. Something to make Karen's smug smile vanish for good. And as my doorbell camera pinged again, showing Ethan standing there with a six-pack and a grin, I knew. Whatever came next, we were in this together. Ethan's grin lit up my doorstep brighter than any porch light Karen had ever found, and with that six-pack in his hand, I knew we were about to turn her game upside down. I waved him in, the faint glow of my lantern catching the mischief in his eyes. My house was still dark, no thanks to Karen, but my blood was pumping like I'd just chugged a Red Bull. Lisa's spreadsheet was burning a hole in my brain. Karen's emails were piling up like kindling, and now Ethan, my ride-or-die neighbor, was here to fan the flames. This wasn't just about my power anymore. This was about everyone she'd bullied, and we were done playing nice. "All right, man," Ethan said, cracking open a beer and sliding one to me. "Spill it. What's the plan to dethrone Queen Karen?" His voice had that spark, like a kid plotting to TP a house, but with higher stakes. I took a sip, the cold fizz sharpening my focus. "She's not just cutting power, Ethan. She's stealing HOA dues to bankroll Brian's crypto scam." Lisa spilled everything: spreadsheets, emails, the works. And I've got Rachel sniffing out their meter tricks. Karen's empire's built on sand, and I'm bringing the tide. Ethan's jaw dropped. Lisa flipped. "Lisa? The one who hands out Karen's fines like Halloween candy." He laughed, loud and free. "Man, that's gotta sting her worse than losing her Wi-Fi." "It's just the start," I said, leaning in. "But we need to move smart." Karen's spooked. "Brian's hauling gear tonight like he's dodging a SWAT team. If we catch them slipping, it's game over." While Ethan and I schemed in my shadowy living room, let's cut to Karen's world for a sec. At the clubhouse, she was probably stapling another violation notice, oblivious to the walls closing in. My camera feed, still running on backup power, caught her muttering to herself, flipping through a binder labeled HOA compliance. Classic Karen, thinking paperwork could save her. Across town, Rachel was tearing through Brian's meter data like a detective in a noir film, her desk a war zone of highlighters and coffee cups. She just pinged me. "Brian's rig pulled 14 kilowatt-hour over limit last week, covered by a manual override." Guess who? And Brian? His SUV was now parked at a storage unit off Route 17, caught by a traffic cam I'd tapped into. He was moving fast, but not fast enough. Back at my place, Ethan was pacing, beer in hand. "So what's the play? You gonna zap her house dark? Post her emails on the neighborhood Facebook page?" His grin was pure chaos, and I loved it. "Tempting," I admitted, "but we go bigger. I'm auditing every meter in Sector 12B, starting with Brian's and the clubhouse. Rachel's already got enough to flag them for fraud. Tomorrow, my crew rolls in, routine inspection. Karen won't know what hit her until the bills land." Ethan raised his beer. To Karen's epic faceplant. I clinked my kin against his. "To justice, man." But as we toasted, my phone buzzed. A new email from Lisa, sent from a burner account. Found texts. Karen told Brian to clear the rig tonight. Also, she's pushing a new rule tomorrow to fine excessive power use. Thinks it'll cover her tracks. Attached were screenshots. Karen's texts, smug and sloppy, practically begging to be caught. My grin widened. "Oh, Lisa, you beautiful traitor." I forwarded the text to Rachel with a note. "Add this to the pile. Nail her." Ethan peeked over my shoulder, whistling low. "She's toast, Mike." Burnt toast with a side of regret. But it wasn't just about Karen anymore. I thought about Sarah, stressed over her kids' homework because of a birdhouse fine. Mr. Jenkins, who'd texted me earlier, "Can't sleep without my light." She's taken enough. Even Lisa, risking everything to do right. This was their fight too, and every ping on my phone. Another neighbor joining the group chat, another story of Karen's nonsense, felt like fuel. The chat was on fire now. Tom posted, "She find my bunny for visual clutter. It's inflatable." Sarah replied, "My son drew a chalk rainbow, and she called it graffiti." The outrage was electric, and I was ready to channel it. As Ethan ranted about Karen's last HOA meeting, where she'd banned loud flip-flops, of all things, I pulled up my drone feed. Yeah, I had a drone, rigged for grid surveillance. Tonight, it was hovering near Brian's storage unit, its camera catching him shoving crates into a locker. Whatever he was hiding, it was heavy, and he kept glancing around like a bad spy. I saved the footage. If that was his crypto rig, it was about to cost Karen more than her presidency. Meanwhile, Rachel was probably cackling at her desk. She'd just sent me a draft report. Brian's meter had been bypassed for months, siphoning $2,800 in unbilled power, all flagged under Karen's admin code. The clubhouse was worse. Its upgrades were a lie, masking Karen's espresso machine and Brian's side hustle. Total damage? For $1,127 in misallocated funds. I pictured Karen's face when the bill hit. Priceless. Back in my living room, Ethan was sketching out a wild plan to project Karen's violation notices on her garage door with a laser pointer. Too much, he asked, grinning. Maybe a tad. I laughed. But hold that energy. Tomorrow's the HOA board meeting. Karen's pushing her power fine rule, thinks it'll save her. I'm sending you in my place. His eyes lit up. Me? At an HOA meeting? I'll need a tie and a lobotomy. Just bring your poker face, I said. I'll feed you lines through an earpiece. We're gonna flip her meeting upside down. As Ethan nodded, hyped like a quarterback before a big game, my drone feed pinged again. Brian was back at Karen's, unloading crates into her garage. At the same time, Rachel texted, "Clubhouse meter's been tampered with, physical bypass. Sending crew at dawn." And in the group chat, Sarah posted, "Just got a new fine for unauthorized porch light." I'm done. The pieces were aligning, and Karen was running out of moves. I clapped Ethan on the shoulder. Get some sleep, man. Tomorrow, we bring the thunder. He smirked. Karen's gonna wish she'd stuck to yelling about mailboxes. As he left, I sat back. My screen's pulsing with data, Brian's crates, Karen's texts, Rachel's report, the neighbor's anger. It was a symphony, and I was the conductor. Karen thought she'd cut my power to win a point, but she'd started a war. Tomorrow, her board meeting would be ground zero, and I was bringing an arsenal of truth. I glanced outside, still dark, still quiet. But inside me, it was fireworks. Karen's empire was teetering, and with Ethan, Lisa, Rachel, and half the neighborhood behind me, we were ready to push it over the edge. The HOA meeting room buzzed with tension, but as Ethan stepped through the door with my voice in his ear, I knew Karen's crown was about to hit the floor. My screens glowed in the dark of my study, each one a window into the chaos I'd orchestrated. Ethan's earpiece was live, my drone hovered outside the clubhouse, and Rachel's audit report was locked and loaded. Karen thought she was running tonight's show, but I was rewriting the script, line by line. This wasn't just about getting my power back. It was about giving everyone she'd crushed a chance to stand tall. Ethan settled into a folding chair at the back, his baseball cap pulled low. Through his phone's hidden feed, I watched Karen at the podium, her smile as fake as her community first bumper sticker. She was mid-speech, waving a stack of papers like a preacher with a Bible. Tonight, she declared, we vote on a new rule fines for excessive power use during storms. It's about fairness, folks. The crowd murmured, some nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. Sarah sat near the front, clutching her purse, her face tight with worry. Mr. Jenkins was there too, his wheelchair parked by the aisle, his porch light fine still stinging. I whispered into Ethan's earpiece, time to poke the bear. Ask about enforcement. Ethan raised his hand, casual as ever. Hey, Karen, who decides what's excessive? You? Or is this another excuse to zap people's lights? His voice carried just enough edge to make heads turn. Karen froze, her smile twitching. The board decides, Ethan. It's a group process. She shuffled her papers, but I caught her glance at Brian, slouched in the corner. His hoodie was up, like he could hide from what was coming. Back in my war room, I grinned. Ethan was a natural. While he kept Karen off balance, Rachel was wrapping up her audit across town. She texted me 10 minutes ago, clubhouse bypass confirmed, hardware tampered. Brian's rig is a power vampire. Full report ready. That report was a sledgehammer, $12, $8.96 in unbilled usage, all tied to Karen's admin code. I'd already sent it to my legal team with one word, hold. I wasn't dropping it yet. Timing was everything. At the same time, my drone feed showed Brian slipping out the clubhouse's back door, phone pressed to his ear. I zoomed in, his face was pale, his gestures frantic. Whatever he was saying, it wasn't about the weather. I bet he was talking to his tech guy, the one Karen had emailed about meter workarounds. Too bad for them. My field crew was already en route to his storage unit, tipped off by last night's footage. If that rig was there, they'd tag it, log it, and lock it down. Back at the meeting, Karen was recovering, pivoting to her favorite tactic, fear. Without this rule, she said, we risk outages. Storms hit hard, and some people, her eyes flicked toward Ethan, use more than their share. The crowd stirred again, but I could feel the doubt spreading. Sarah's hand shot up. Karen, she said, voice shaking but firm, you fined me for a birdhouse. Now you're threatening my power? My son needs his nebulizer. How's that fair? The room went quiet. Mr. Jenkins nodded, his voice gravelly but clear. She fined me for my safety light. I'm not risking a fall because of your rules. A few neighbors clapped, and Karen's face reddened. I whispered to Ethan, Now, hit her with the budget. Ethan stood, holding up his phone like a lawyer with evidence. Speaking of fairness, Karen, care to explain why our HOA dues, $600 a year per house, paid for Brian's new pergola? Or his basement tech setup? Because I've got numbers that say maintenance funds went straight to your cousin's pocket. The crowd gasped. Karen's mouth opened, then closed, like a fish out of water. Brian bolted upright, his hoodie slipping. That's a lie, he shouted, but his voice cracked, and nobody bought it. I fed Ethan more lines, my fingers flying over my keyboard. Keep going. Mention the clubhouse. Ethan didn't miss a beat. And while we're at it, why's the clubhouse meter running like a Vegas casino? $4,000 in overages last quarter. Karen, you gonna blame that on Sarah's birdhouse too? The room erupted, neighbors shouting, some laughing, others demanding answers. Karen banged her gavel, yelling for order, but it was like trying to herd a wildfire. Lisa, sitting quietly in the back, caught my eye through the feed. She gave a tiny nod, and I knew she leaked just enough to Ethan to make this work. Teamwork makes the dream work. While the meeting imploded, Rachel's crew was pulling into Brian's storage unit. My drone caught it live, 2 techs in Lakeview Energy vests, clipboards in hand, popping the lock on locker 17B. Inside? Crates stacked high, humming with the telltale buzz of crypto miners. They tagged the gear, photographed it, and sealed the unit. Brian's scam was officially busted, and Karen's fingerprints were all over it. Back at the clubhouse, Karen was unraveling. This is slander, she screeched, pointing at Ethan. You're making this up to undermine me. Ethan smirked, cool as ice. Nah, Karen, I'm just reading the receipts. And here's the kicker, Lakeview Energy's auditing us. Right now. Every meter, every override. Guess whose name's on the naughty list? The crowd roared. Sarah stood, tears in her eyes, but her voice steady. You cut Mike's power, Karen. Mike. The guy who mows Mrs. Carter's lawn when she's sick. You think you can bully us all? I felt a lump in my throat. Sarah didn't know I was watching, didn't know I was the guy behind the audit, but her words hit home. This was why I was fighting, not just for me, but for her, for Mr. Jenkins, for everyone who'd felt Karen's boot on their neck. As the meeting spiraled, my phone lit up with a text from Rachel, audit done. Clubhouse and Brian's house flagged for federal review. You want the bill sent tonight? I typed back, hold till morning. Let her sweat. I wanted Karen to feel the news tightening before it snapped. At the same time, the group chat was a volcano. Tom posted, Karen's done. Who's got popcorn? Lisa, using a fake name, dropped a screenshot of Karen's pergola payment, and the replies exploded with fire emojis. Even Mrs. Carter, who never used her phone, chimed in. I say we vote her out. The revolution wasn't just brewing, it was here. Back at the meeting, Ethan sealed the deal. One last thing, Karen. The utility company's reclassifying us as a conditional zone because of your overrides. That's triple rates starting Monday. Unless you've got $12,896 lying around, I'd start packing. Karen's face went white. She slammed her gavel, ending the meeting, and stormed out, Brian trailing her like a kicked puppy. The crowd didn't follow. They stayed, clapping, hugging, some even chanting Ethan's name. Sarah hugged Mr. Jenkins, and Lisa slipped out quietly, her part done. I leaned back, my heart pounding. Karen was crumbling, but she wasn't out. Not yet. She'd fight dirty, I knew it. But with Ethan's mic drop, Rachel's evidence, and the neighborhood finally awake, we were ready for her next move. As my screens flickered, showing Karen's car speeding down Maple Drive, I cracked a fresh Diet Coke. The meeting was over, but the real showdown was just beginning. Karen's car screeched out of the clubhouse lot, but as I watched her taillights fade, I knew this wasn't her surrender, it was her scrambling for a comeback, and I was ready to shut her down for good. My screens hummed in the dark, each one a piece of the puzzle I'd spent days assembling. Ethan's mic drop at the HOA meeting had cracked Karen's armor, Rachel's audit had sealed her fate, and the neighborhood was buzzing like a hive ready to swarm. My house was still dark, not because I couldn't fix it, but because I wanted Karen to think she'd won something. Let her savor her last sip of chamomile tea before the real storm hit. This was for Sarah, for Mr. Jenkins, for every neighbor she'd find into frustration. This was for Lakeview. I leaned back, sipping my Diet Coke, the fizz sharp against the quiet. The group chat was a wildfire, Tom posting memes of Karen as a cartoon dictator, Sarah sharing a selfie with her son, captioned no more birdhouse finds. Even Lisa, still incognito, dropped a cryptic it's over with a heart emoji. But I wasn't celebrating yet. Karen didn't go quietly, she'd claw, scheme, anything to keep her crown. And I'd be waiting. While my neighbors cheered, let's cut to Karen's world one last time. She was probably in her kitchen, pacing under those smug string lights, texting Brian like her life depended on it. My drone, still circling discreetly, caught her silhouette through her window, gesturing wildly as she yelled into her phone. Brian, meanwhile, was sweating bullets at his house. My field crew had just hit his place after the storage unit bust, finding a bypassed meter wired to his crypto rig, pulling $3,200 in stolen power. Rachel had packaged it all, photos, logs, Lisa's texts, into a report now sitting with Lakeview Energy's legal team. Across town, they were drafting a letter that'd make Karen's pergola budget look like pocket change. Back in my war room, I pulled up the final piece, an email from Karen to a shady consultant, sent an hour ago. Need urgent fix for meter audit. Name your price. Classic Karen, still thinking she could buy her way out. I forwarded it to Rachel with a note. Add to the file. Send the bill at 0800. That bill, $12, $8.96 for unauthorized usage, backdated penalties, and meter tampering, wasn't just a fine. It was a guillotine. As I queued the order, my phone pinged. Ethan, calling from his garage. Yo, Mike, you see the chat? We're planning a block party to celebrate Karen's faceplant. You in? I laughed. Soon, man. Gotta tie up loose ends first. I pictured the party, kids on bounce houses, Sarah's cookies, Mr. Jenkins' porch light blazing without fear. That's what I was fighting for, and it was almost here. But Karen wasn't done. At 3 a.m., my drone feed caught her sneaking to the clubhouse, a flashlight bobbing in her hand. Breaking and entering wasn't her style. She had a key, but sneaking in at night? That screamed desperation. I zoomed in. She was at the meter box, fumbling with a screwdriver. Was she seriously trying to tamper with it now? I hit record, my heart thumping. This was better than Lisa's spreadsheet. Karen, caught red-handed, thinking she could outsmart a system I built from the ground up. While she fumbled, Rachel was finalizing the legal notice at the office, her desk a fortress of empty coffee cups. She texted, letters ready. Federal violation cited, meter tampering's no joke. You want it delivered personally? I replied, clubhouse drop, dawn. Make it dramatic. I pictured Karen's face when she saw the Lakeview Energy seal priceless. At the same time, the group chat lit up with a new post from Sarah. Karen just drove by my house, glaring. Should I be worried? Ethan jumped in. She's toast, Sarah. Mike's got this. I smiled, typing. Sleep easy. She's out of moves. But I kept one eye on my drone. Karen was still at the meter, muttering to herself, oblivious to the camera catching every move. By sunrise, the trap was set. My crew rolled up to the clubhouse at 6:45 a.m., two vans with Lakeview Energy logos gleaming. They didn't knock. They slid a crisp envelope under the door, stamped with urgent, compliance violation. Inside was the bill, itemized to perfection. $12,896, due in 30 days, with a note about pending federal review for tampering. I watched it unfold on my feed, sipping coffee as Karen arrived 10 minutes later, probably to cover her tracks. She froze when she saw the envelope. Her hand shook as she tore it open, her face crumpling like a bad Yelp review. She didn't scream, didn't cry, just stood there, deflated, the weight of $12,896 crushing her smugness to dust. My drone caught it all, and I saved the clip. Not for revenge, but for Lakeview. For proof we'd fought back. While Karen reeled, the neighborhood was waking up to a new day. Sarah was dropping her son at soccer, Mr. Jenkins was watering his roses, and Ethan was already stringing lights for the block party. The chat buzzed with plans, Tom suggesting a no Karens allowed banner, Lisa offering to bake brownies. And me? I finally flipped my breaker. My house hummed to life. Lights, fridge, Wi-Fi, all back like they'd never left. I didn't need them to win, but damn, it felt good. Karen tried one last gasp, a furious email to the county, claiming unfair targeting. Too bad it landed with my cousin, Matt, who ran the utilities board. He called me, laughing. Want me to frame her complaint, or just shred it? I told him to send her a form letter, issue dismissed. Contact your provider. She'd get it by noon, along with a new HOA notice. Her presidency was officially void, voted out in a special meeting led by Sarah, now the interim chair. By afternoon, the block party was in full swing. Kids ran wild, music blared, and Sarah unveiled a plaque by the clubhouse, Lakeview Grid, powered by us. Under it, in tiny letters, in memory of Karen's finds. The crowd roared, and I laughed from my porch, keeping my distance. I didn't need the spotlight, just the sight of my neighbors smiling, free at last. Karen? She was packing. Her house hit the market that week, with a desperate price slashed. Sign. Nobody bid. Her name was toxic now, thanks to a viral video of her meter stunt, posted anonymously, not by me, I swear. She left in a rented U-Haul, no fanfare, just a neighbor snapping a pic caption "The Queen has left the cul-de-sac." I toasted her exit with a Diet Coke, my lights blazing. Life moved on. Sarah's board rewrote the bylaws, no more power games. We got solar panels for the clubhouse, funded by a grant I quietly pushed through. Ethan hosted a grid trivia at night, complete with a drone-shaped piñata. And me? I stayed in the shadows, just Mike, the guy with the tidy lawn. But every time I flipped a switch, I remembered, we'd taken our power back, together. So, folks, what's your Karen story? Drop it in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and let's keep shining a light on the bullies who think they run the show.